this video, I will review the 3 books by Margaret Rogerson that she's written up until this point, and it's The Enchantment of Ravens, The Sorcery of Thorns, and Vespertine. The one trope slash cliche that Rogerson uses in all of her books that I love so much, and you could definitely argue that she just writes one and the same book, only in different settings. Romance. Romance is at the forefront, I think, in all of her books, but it's kind of masked by all these fantasy elements and mystery elements. Now, the type of romance I adore is that she constantly uses these enemies to lovers trope, which is my favorite trope, and she uses it so expertly because she makes these characters who actually have chemistry, and that's because women characters are so strong, not just in the physical sense, but in the sense that I can really see the man and woman being on equal ground. So the trope that she also uses is that the romantic interests are always pretty, like tall, lean, and have a really nice bone structure, they all look like Fae people or something, and I just love that. I love seeing men in fiction be more feminine, and some people I think don't love that or want more variety. For me, I just want all of her characters, male characters, to always look like anime characters, to be honest, so I don't care. To start with The Enchantment of Ravens, it's about a Fae land where we have this small town of humans that deal with a lot of craft. We have our main character Isabel, who's a painter, and she's one of the best at her craft, and so this brings the Autumn Prince to visit her to want to make a portrait of himself, and she does. Only thing is, she also captures one of his biggest weaknesses, which is a human emotion in his eye. Once he realizes his spirits are away, they go to this magical, dangerous forest in order to get to his kingdom, his court, for her to be judged for her sins. In all of that, they begin falling in love, and they have this great chemistry, and not everything is as black and white as it seems. And it all reminded me of the Howl's Moving Castle because it was so fairy tale-esque, so magical. The main character was definitely Howl. He was so beautiful, he had dark hair and I think dark skin, and he was just an embodiment of beauty and, Fae folk. While our Isabel was so strong and she was crafty, she was intelligent, she was very much an active character in the story, just like the one from Howl's Moving Castle. Now, this wouldn't be the proper review for Margaret Rogerson's books if I did not mention her prose. Rogerson has created this set of metaphors, vocabulary, and words that kind of brought this whole world to life. The magic is seeping through the words, the sentences, descriptions. It's just wonderful, and it's everything I hoped Howl's Moving Castle would be. I had so much problem with the prose, which is so ridiculously telling and weak, unfortunately. And Enchantment of Ravens gave me what I wanted to get from Howl's Moving Castle in terms of writing style. So I so recommend this if you like beautiful sentences and just magical metaphors. The last thing I want to mention for this book is that the portrayal of fairies is not just these aesthetically beautiful people, it's also the other side. The side once you lose the enchantment, once our Isabel sees the proper face of the love interest, once she sees how monstrous he looks in real life. I adored the balance Rogerson created between beauty and decay. The way she plays with language and with aesthetics of the world is just wonderful. I was enchanted with the writing style, with the romance, with the ending, which I will not spoil, but just let me say it's not like the fairy tale-esque happy ever after, so I definitely recommend this book. Next up we have The Sorcery of Thorns, which is by far the most popular of the 3 books of Rogerson's. Everyone loves The Sorcery of Thorns, and I can see why. I will say though that out of the 3 books, it was my least favorite. Still, like 5 stars, favorite book ever, but when comparing to Enchantment of Ravens and Vespertine, this was like my least favorite. Sorcery of Thorns is about Elizabeth, who works in a library. She was raised there, she was an orphan, and she just speaks to the books, kind of, even, because books are magic. And one day, one book becomes a huge monster that she stops barely, and then she's implicated in the crime of releasing the book. And she then has to get the help of a powerful magician, Thorn, in order to resolve this crime, to find the real criminal. Again, as with Enchantment of Ravens, this book is so, like, main focus of this book is, I think, the romance. It's like the main point of this book, but we also have this super exciting mystery plot, and this mystery plot is kind of, you can see where it's going, you can see like who did what, but at the same time you're enjoying yourself because the romance is slowly blooming. We have this Thorn character who is a magician, of course, enemies to lovers, and then we have this demon character, Silas, who is my favorite character because he's like a demon assistant to Thorn, and he has this like gray nature of being a demon and being basically evil and eating like 10 or 20 years off of someone's life in exchange for his services. And then at the other end we have him just wanting to be a good person and not wanting to be seen as an evil demon, you know, and actually caring for Thorn and being his friend. And it's like, this is like my conflicting point, I think. Everything, again, the writing style, the aesthetics of the beautiful Thorn and even more beautiful Silas, everything is there, you know. Elizabeth as a character is such a strong female character. I absolutely adored her. I kind of equated her with Pirates of the Caribbean Elizabeth. I don't know why, but anyway, everything is fine, everything is perfect. But the reason why I like this the least out of all three, and all three got 5 stars from me, all three are like my favorite books ever, but the reason is that I just expected Elizabeth. I wanted Elizabeth to be at the end of the day with Silas, not Thorn. And I understand this book is called The Sorcery of Thorns, and it's like obvious that she will end up with the magician guy, but I just got it into my head that the author wanted us to believe that she will be with Thorn. But since most of the interactions were between Silas and Elizabeth, as they, like, you know, did things for solving the mystery, I kind of got to the belief that Silas is the main love interest, because he was so interesting, like a demon who's just fighting with his nature. I don't know, I loved it. The one thing that kind of disappointed me is that I just expected the vocabulary and metaphors to be a bit different than Enchantment of Ravens, and I found that most of the words that were used to create the image, the world of Enchantment of Ravens, was also used in Sorcery of Thorns, which again is still beautiful and wonderful, but by that point some of the metaphors became a bit, you know, already seen before, as I've seen them, read them in the Enchantment of Ravens. So that's all I have to say about Sorcery of Thorns. Another wonderful book, mystery, a bit see-through, but still interesting, because at the end of the day, the romance is at the forefront. Vespertine was my third book of Rogerson. I read it immediately after Enchantment of Ravens and Sorcery of Thorns. Vespertine is the first in a trilogy, and it deals with nuns and monks and like priests. And if you know from past few videos that I just realized I love when there's nuns and priests and godly things in books, and Vespertine just filled my heart with what I needed. Vespertine is about Artemisia, who is a nun at this convent, and she deals with dead bodies, and she has like this dark past. She doesn't really like to talk to people, and her face and expression are really scary, and like everyone is kind of scared of her because she was once possessed by a demon. This is a world where there are demons, there are literal levels, different levels of demons on how dangerous they are. Anyway, Artemisia wakes up this demon, and demon possesses her, and then they have to live together in one body and kind of find out who is waking up these magical powers, dangerous magical powers that are attacking cities. And like there's again this huge mystery element, as well as a strong female character, which is Artemisia. In this one we also have this character who is demon, the voice inside Artemisia's head, and he's, or they are, we don't really know the sex of it, It is very highly entertaining. Margaret Rogerson herself said it's kind of like a venom, and I just loved the banter between the two, you know, characters, Artemisia and the demon. And then we have this, again, femininely beautiful, blind priest who is young, and he's a priest. And he is very interesting because his, you know, intentions aren't pure. He's kind of like an enemy to Artemisia, but there's something there, hidden past, suffering, I don't know, trauma, we don't know. But anyway, this trope I just love, and she does it in every book. She does it, that there's this tortured beautiful man, and also there's this tortured beautiful priest in Vespertine. Again, I love the fact that he's a priest. I love the fact that she's a nun, and I just hope that there will be a love story in the future. Even in Vespertine, there isn't one. There isn't a love story, but there's like these short flickers of one, maybe. Rogerson's books are basically, I think, love stories masked by the mystery, fantastical elements. However, in Vespertine, these mystical fantasy elements are bigger than they are in the Sorcery of Thorns and Enchantment of Ravens. And I adored this mystery element because, as already mentioned, with the Sorcery of Thorns, I just knew and I could guess the mystery, mostly all of it. In Vespertine, it really drove me insane to be guessing what's happening. It was really playing with the, you know, all the elements that we got. It was really playing with Artemisia and her own dark, traumatizing past. It was really playing with this priest and us not knowing what he wants, and it was really playing with the demon, you know, the demon that we don't know who this demon is, who it was. We just know that it is now. It's got immense power, and Artemisia herself, wielding this power, is slowly becoming a type of a saint, a type of a messiah between the people. She's more of a Joan of Arc type of person in this book, and I just love this concept of one person becoming a symbol for fight against oppression. The reason Vespertine is my favorite out of all of them is because Artemisia, our heroine, is my favorite. She's created perfectly. She's created as a flawed, traumatized character who, despite it all, just wants to be left alone. She just wants to work with dead bodies in her convent. She's a loner. She's just has these traits that are kind of relatable. Again, the prose was at the level, but again, I have to mention that just as in the previous two books, the sentences and vocabulary was kind of the same as in the previous books. So that was kind of a small minus, but all things considered, I adored this book, and I just adored all of the characters. I think that the thing that I kind of disliked the most about the previous books, the fact that they were really short and fast-paced, will be mended in Vespertine because it's gonna be a trilogy or something, and we can spend more time with our characters and we can prolong the mystery elements more. And so to conclude, I think Margaret Rogerson's prose as well as ideas as well as these cliches all work so well together, and she just keeps writing basically the same story in different settings. And if you like this story, you will like that it's always the same, but the settings are different. And if you've read any of these books, especially Vespertine, please tell me, because I just need to talk about it. So thank you, and I'll see you in one of my next videos.